Ram Vishnu Paraparamahansa Parvachakacharya Ustatara Satashi Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 24, texts. Thank you. Anyone else? Ladies? Anyone? Tat, that, Kardama, of Kardama, Ashrama Padam, to the place of hermitage, Sarasvatya, by the river Saraswati, Parishritam, surrounded, Svayambhu, Brahma, the self-born, Sakam, along with, Rishibhi, the sages, Marichi, the great sage Marichi, Adibhi, and others, Abhayat, he came there. Translation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Brahma, the firstborn living entity, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Please repeat. Brahma, the firstborn living being, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Purport. Brahma is called Svayambhu because he is not born of any material father and mother. He is the first living creature and is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govardhana Vishnu. Therefore, he is called Svayambhu, self-born. So the next text is number 10. Bhagavantam parang brahma satvinang shena shatruhan tattva shankyana vigyaptyai jatam vidvan ajasvarat. And the translation is, Maitreya continued, O killer of the enemy, the unborn Lord Brahma, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge, could understand that a portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his quality of pure existence, had appeared in the womb of Devahuti, just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Shankya Yoga. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, it is stated that the Lord himself is the compiler of Vedanta Sutra, and he is the perfect knower of Vedanta Sutra. Similarly, the Shankya philosophy is compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his appearance as Kapila. There is an imitation Kapila who has a Shankya philosophical system, but Kapila, the incarnation of God, is different from that Kapila. Kapila, the son of Kardama Muni, in his system of Shankya philosophy, very explicitly explained not only the material world, but also the spiritual world. Brahma could understand this fact because he is Svarat, almost independent in receiving knowledge. He is called Svarat because he did not go to any school or college to learn, but learned everything from within. Because Brahma is the first living creature within this universe, he had no teacher. His teacher was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who is seated within the heart of every living creature. Brahma acquired knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord within the heart. Therefore, sometimes he is called Svarat and Aja. Another important point is stated here. Satvinang Shena. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he brings with him all his paraphernalia of Vaikuntha. Therefore, his name, his form, his quality, his paraphernalia, and his entourage all belong to the transcendental world. Real goodness is in the transcendental world. Here in the material world, the quality of goodness is not pure. Goodness may exist, but there must also be some tinges of passion and ignorance. In the spiritual world, the unalloyed quality of goodness prevails. There, the quality of goodness is called Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. Another name for Shuddha Sattva is Vasudeva, because God is born from Vasudeva. Another meaning is that when one is purely situated in the qualities of goodness, he can understand the form, name, quality, paraphernalia, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Angshena also indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appeared as Kapila Dev in a portion of his portion. God expands either as Kala or as Anksha. Anksha means direct expansion, and Kala means expansion of the expansion. There is no difference between the expansion of the expansion, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, just as there is no difference between one candle and another, but still the candle from which the others are lit is called the original. Krishna, therefore, is called Parabrahman, or the ultimate Godhead and the cause of all causes. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganangana Shalaka Chakshuin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today was a little bit difficult because there are two verses to cover, and it happens to be the disappearance day of Lokanath Goswami, Lord Chaitanya's very beautiful associate, eternal associate. So I'll do a little on the Srimad Bhagavatam and then move over to Lokanath Goswami. So Lord Brahma is, we know he's the firstborn living entity. And here he's going to visit Kardama Muni and Devahuti, knowing that within her womb is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And along with him, he takes various sages, because Lord Brahma is always accompanied by great exalted souls. And that's the kind of, that's that element of association. Wherever he goes, he will take very elevated souls with him for that association. So Lord Brahma is very aware that within Devahuti's womb the Lord is residing. And he also is aware that he's come to spread this Shankya philosophy. And that's, of course, that's a very important, these teachings are highly important, and Shankya Yoga actually is Krishna consciousness, because it's the study of everything material and everything spiritual, and includes the living entity, the time factor, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's very, it's a little complex to understand all those qualities of material energy and the whole fabrication of the material world, of course. But because he also gives so much emphasis to the spiritual world and spiritual life, then by following his teachings, you become a perfect devotee. So we know Lord Brahma is very exalted. He's the first living entity. He's our head of our sampradaya. So in our sampradaya we have so many great souls, and you can only just put your hands together and offer respects to them. Of course, our experience is with Srila Prabhupada, but we understand so much from him about the glories of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And then we have Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, going back to the 6 Goswamis. They're all wonderful, exalted souls. And we're so blessed to have them, because not only do we have the blessings of our spiritual master, but we have the blessings of the whole disciplic succession, including Lord Brahma. Actually, we've just been reading in the 4th canto about Lord Shiva, and we're just doing some verses where Lord Shiva is explaining how he feels so much respect for anybody who takes up devotional service. It's really very nice. He becomes their devotee. And then Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that by the fact that Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee, and we worship the exalted devotees, then we also worship Lord Shiva. Anyway, so all these great souls are kind of looking out for us, and it's very encouraging. So here Lord Brahma, of course, he's got to look after the whole universe, and he wants to he's going to tell Kardama Muni that he can go and take sannyas, because that's what he wants. And he's going to explain that the daughters should be married, and then he's explaining that the purpose of Kapila Dev in front of the mother and father. So he knows the relevance of what's happening. So each creation of the Lord, each creation, the Lord comes in different forms. He comes in the Guna avatars, which is where Lord Brahma comes in. He's the mode of passion head. And he also comes in his Leela avatars, he sends pure devotees. So he's always looking out for the benefit of the living entities. Therefore, he makes all sorts of arrangements, either himself coming, his pure devotees coming, etc. And he also sends Kapila Dev is a Shaktivesh avatar, just like King Prithu Maharaj. And in the 4th canto, there's so much information on King Prithu Maharaj and what he did for the planet Earth, the way he ruled, and it's just very inspiring to read. So he's also a Shaktivesh avatar. So Kapila Dev is very specifically coming not to teach how to rule or anything else. He's just teaching the Shankya philosophy. Lord Brahma is bringing along these sages also so that they can bless Devahuti, who is actually the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how fortunate these parents are, and how fortunate Devahuti is. She was his first student, Kapila Dev's first student, and they lived in this sacred place on the Saraswati. You can't even imagine these days how beautiful and how sanctified their ashram was. So they lived there, in a very sattvic, of course, lifestyle. And now Kapila Muni is coming, and he will teach Devahuti. So there will be this wonderful exchange between the mother and the son, where she's asking questions, and he's just sitting in front of her, smiling and so affectionate towards her, as he's giving her this understanding of Shankya philosophy. It's a very nice exchange. Of course, he then went later and he taught Shankya philosophy all over the place, but initially it was his mother. And what's recorded here in the Srimad Bhagavatam is the exchange between he and his mother. And actually it goes for like 9 chapters here. The instructions of Kapila Dev. So that will all be revealed. So Srila Prabhupada explains that the other point that's very important is Sattvinangshena, that the plenary portion comes from Shuddha Sattva. So here in this material world, sometimes you can kind of meet people and you can see that element of goodness in them. And of course devotees, are fostering that element of goodness. But in the material world, there's always contamination. There are always the other modes. And especially in our Bhumandala, it's a lot of passion and ignorance, and goodness is a smaller amount. But in the heavenly planets, they have their main quality is goodness, that sattva, this mode of cleanliness and godliness and all good qualities. But unfortunately, they're also mixed in the heavenly planets. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Kapila came from the spiritual world, which is called Shuddha Sattva, which is beyond this material world. So he's an angsha, he's a part, but he's Shuddha, he's a pure part. So he's an expansion of the Lord, and he's pure and uncontaminated, and there's no difference between him and Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, but Krishna himself is the cause of everything. He's the first one, like the candle explanation. There's one candle that all the other candles come from. So, so the word Shankya, when we say Sankirtan, we mean having kirtan together. So sang, S-A-M with a dot. Sang means together. And kya means to make known. So here, Shankya is to make known. Of course, he's making known so many different aspects. He covers all the important ingredients of creation, transmigration of the soul, and it's explained that the Shankya philosophy is revealed in the Rig Veda. It's discussed in the Rig Veda. It's also discussed in the Katha Upanishad, the Svetashvara Upanishads. So it's very ancient science, but Kapila here is bringing that science to the world. And now, by good fortune, we have this encapsulated here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when he starts to speak, first of all, he speaks about the glories of devotional service. There's 2 chapters there about those glories, and then the next 2 are about the fundamental principles of material nature. And then the devotional service is expanded upon. And then there's 5 chapters that kind of talk about the entanglement of the soul. So some of it's pretty intense in this 3rd canto, but it's all things that we need to understand. And once we take in, how difficult actually such things as going through birth is discussed in great detail. And when you actually read that, if you actually take it in, you think, I never want to take birth again. But we get sentimental. Babies are born and we forget about it. But Kapila Dev really told it like it is. So with that philosophy, he teaches how to prosecute yoga and what the ultimate goal, ultimate yoga is, which is devotional service. He discusses the time factor. He discusses mundane household life, how the material body develops, how one becomes entangled. He describes the 24 elements, the 5 gross elements, subtle, the 4 internal senses, the 5 knowledge-gathering senses, and the 5 outward organs of action. So the 25th element, after those 24, is time. And time is a pretty amazing element. It's the mixing factor. It mixes everything up. And we know that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So time is the influence of the Supreme Lord which causes the fear of death. Because there's time there, we know our time in the material body is limited, and then that fear of death comes. Also, because of that false ego is connecting us with material energy. So that the Lord without takes that time factor, and within, of course, we know that he's the super soul guiding us, and he has so nicely guided Lord Brahma, taught him everything, because he was the firstborn and he didn't have any other influence. All in all, Shankya philosophy is very important for us to understand. So now I would like to speak on a great devotee. And I don't know if you know, but we sing his name every day. You know where we sing his name? Lokanath Lokirajivana. Narottam Das, his only disciple, encapsulated his name there in the Guru Puja chant that we sing every day. Lokanath Goswami, we know that there are 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, but actually there are others that also kind of fit the bill, and Lokanath Swami would be the greatest of them. He was actually the oldest. He was sent first to Vrindavan before the others were sent. And he went along with his friend Bhukarva Goswami, and that's an interesting story, even how that happened. So he was born in Talakari, which is it's in West Bengal, and it's not far from Navadvip, where Lord Chaitanya appeared. And his father was a Brahmin called Padmanabha. His mother was Sita Devi. And they had him educated very well. He was considered a great scholar. So for some reason, and we don't know why, Lokanath Swami didn't write any books, which is why I guess he's not really counted in amongst those 6 Goswamis. But all the other aspects of the Goswamis, finding out the holy places and letting people know the glories and preaching and all those things, he did very wonderfully. So he was right from the start, he was indifferent to family life. He was not interested. And it's kind of like the same as Narottam. As soon as he heard his parents discussing his marriage, he just left. And he went to see Lord Chaitanya because it wasn't very far for him to walk. And when he met Lord Chaitanya, he immediately fell down and offered respectful obeisances, and he was weeping, and Lord Chaitanya was embracing him, and it was a very loving exchange between he and Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, when he met him, when he began to cry, he said, "How could you have forgotten me?" And so Lokanath caught his lotus feet and was weeping and filled with so much prema because Lord Chaitanya had embraced him. So it was a very nice meeting. But it wasn't long before Lord Chaitanya requested him to go to Vrindavan. So it's quite interesting. There's a book that I have called Prem Vilas, written by Virabhadra's disciple, Nityananda. Virabhadra's the son of Lord Nityananda. So Nityananda had a lot to do with, of course, Virabhadra and Janavamata. And when Janavamata went those 2 times to Vrindavan to meet the Goswamis, Nityananda went with them both times. So he has a lot of knowledge about those pastimes in that time. So he explains in the Prem Vilas that Lord Chaitanya spent some time talking to Lokanath Swami about Goswami, about why he had come, why he had advented. And his main, it goes for several pages. I can't, there's just not enough time to explain all these things, but he explains that he's come to distribute the glories of Srimati Radharani. And then I was kind of meditating on that. He comes to distribute Srimati Radharani's glories. He said, that's why I've incarnated, to distribute her glories. But he actually only speaks to Srimati Radharani about Srimati Radharani to certain devotees. He doesn't seem to broadcast the glories of Srimati Radharani. And then I was meditating that his whole life is actually teaching us the glories of Srimati Radharani, because his mood was so ecstatic and so almost mad with prema. And when we read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can understand, he would just rub his cheek at night when he was with his dear devotees, his very intimate devotees, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. He would rub his cheek along the walls and start bleeding, and so many things. His whole body would elongate, and that was all because of his full ecstatic prema. In that mood of Srimati Radharani, that's his whole mood. He came in that, having taken her prema. And then in that way, he didn't talk so much about Srimati Radharani. We do have details in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of some, but not much. But he was exhibiting her mood the whole time that he was present. So in that way, he expanded Srimati Radharani's glories. So Lokanath Goswami had been requested to go, and Lord Chaitanya said to him, "Go to Vrindavan, you'll attain all perfection. Immerse yourself in ecstatic love for Radha and Krishna. Don't feel my separation. Reside in different areas of Braj, bathe in the Jamuna every day, and eat whatever you receive without begging." So they were his instructions. So when he left, when Lokanath Swami left, just before he left, while Lord Chaitanya was talking to him, Bhugarbha Goswami was also standing there, and he said, "I would really like to go to Vrindavan as well." So Lord Chaitanya said, "Yes, you go together, you discuss Krishna Katha together, and you find those holy places of Radha and Krishna together." So they were very happy, when they left. They were sad to see Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya told he would come to visit him in Vrindavan, but they were happy to have each other's association, and they were very excited to be going to Vrindavan. So Lord Chaitanya, when Lokanath Goswami had gone, he fell down crying in separation, and it's described that he cried pathetically. One thing is also, Lokanath Goswami is Manjulali in Krishna's Gopi, in Krishna's Leela, and Bhugarva is Nandimukhi in Krishna's Leela. And guess who were best friends in Krishna's Leela? Those two were best friends in Krishna's Leela. So it was all Lord Chaitanya's arrangement that they should be able to go together to Vrindavan as such close friends. So they were very enthusiastic, and they were kind of like, they were just fixed to walk there. I don't know how long it takes. It takes a long time to walk from Mayapur to Vrindavan. But when they reached Vrindavan, they were just sort of wandering around like madmen, and they were sometimes crying or rolling on the ground, or they were very ecstatic, and they could tell where all the pastime places were because the Lord in the heart revealed all those things. And they had been there in the Leela before, in their previous incarnation, in their previous life. So when they found Radhakund and Shamakund, at that time Radhakund and Shamakund were agricultural barley fields. It wasn't like now. So they knew, because it was Lord Chaitanya that came, when he came to Vrindavan, and there was a little small amount of water, and he became ecstatic, and he started bathing in that water because he knew that was Radhakund. And at that time, it became common knowledge that this is Shamakund and Radhakund here. But Lokanath Goswami and Bhugarva Goswami, they knew, and they were very ecstatic to find that. And wherever they went, they were just so blissful to be moving around these wonderful holy places where Krishna had had his pastimes, and where they had also assisted Krishna in his pastimes. So the Brajbasis were very happy to meet them. They could understand they're very exalted devotees, and they tried to serve them in every way possible. But they couldn't serve them very much because they just lay under a tree at night. They didn't have a fixed residence. They didn't want a fixed residence. So it's not like they could do so much for them, but whatever they could do, they did. So we're going to fast forward here to Narottam Das Thakur, who was a great and exalted, beautiful, youthful, he was only young. And Lord Chaitanya had, in the Padma River, Lord Chaitanya had deposited his prema within the Padma River in order that Narottam, when he advented, he would be able to take bath in that river and achieve that prema. And sure enough, when Lord Chaitanya deposited the prema, the Padma River overran her banks in ecstasy. And sure enough, when Narottam Das went there and took his bath in that river, the Padma River again broke its banks from her ecstasy, and she passed that ecstatic love from Lord Chaitanya to Narottam Das's heart. Now the physical thing with Narottam is, at that time, he turned golden colour. His parents didn't even recognise him. Anyway, shortly after that, it's a long story, but he left and went to Vrindavan. Now, before he left, Lord Chaitanya had appeared to him and said, I want you to go to Vrindavan. I need you to take shelter of Lokanath Goswami. He is your eternal guru. You please go there. So Narottam Das had to run away. Again, his parents started to make marriage plans, and he took off. So he was very, he had prema, in his heart, and he was such in an ecstatic state the whole time. So sometimes he would just cry because he felt separation from Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis. So the Goswamis actually had left by the time Narottam Das made it to Vrindavan. So he was very unhappy about that. But on the way they appeared to him because he was so unhappy. They appeared to him and they appeased him and they said, don't you worry, all good will come. You go to Vrindavan. Again, this takes shelter of Lokanath. And so they encouraged him. So Jiva Goswami and Lokanath Goswami were awaiting his arrival. They knew he was coming, Narottam Das. So when he first came to Vrindavan, he went to Govindaji temple and then he fainted. And they heard about this golden boy who had come and fainted, so they went there. And Lokanath Goswami, he was actually unconscious. And Lokanath Goswami, he went over to Narottam Das, who was unconscious, and he put his hand very gently on his chest. And by that gentle, loving pressure, Narottam Das awakened. And he was so happy to see Lokanath Goswami there. And he grabbed his lotus feet. And Lokanath Goswami said to him, I knew you were coming. I dreamed of you last night. Lord Chaitanya has kindly sent you here, and he's given a poor soul like me great wealth. Because Lokanath Goswami never took disciples. He was very humble. And he knew he was supposed to take him as disciple, but he didn't actually want to. He took him to his ashram and he began to guide him and care for him. But he told him, Lokanath Goswami told Narottam, because Lord Chaitanya has entered your heart, you don't need a guru. Because he didn't want to take that job out of his humility, even though he knew that it was kind of destiny. So he would refuse to give initiation. But Narottam Das was very persistent. And he served Lokanath Goswami any way he could, if he could cook for him, massage his lotus feet, whatever he could do. But then he thought, I want to do more service. So he was trying to think in Lokanath Goswami's life what he could do. And Lokanath Goswami, early in the morning, would go to the fields to pasture. So at that place, Narottam Das watched where he'd gone to, and then he cleaned that area. And every day he would bring and strain clay for Lokanath Goswami to clean himself with, and he would clean that place. So this went on for a whole year. And Lokanath Goswami used to sometimes wonder, how come that area is always clean? But he didn't think much about it. And then after a whole year, he actually hid one day, and he saw his aspiring disciple, Narottam Das, cleaning that area. So then he knew that it had been Lokanath Swami who'd taken such good care and Narottam had done that nice service for him. So Lokanath became a little more inclined, and then when Narottam Das again begged him, then he said, all right, we'll take bath in the Jamuna, and I'll initiate you. So then he explained that he wanted him. Narottam had been doing 200,000 names a day, which is 2 lots of 64 rounds every day, plus all his service. But he instructed him to do 100,000 at least every day. That's 64 rounds. So also he also instructed Narottam to go to Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami would teach each day Narottam Das, Srinivasacharya, and Shyamananda. They were like 3 very exalted disciples. And he taught from the Goswamis' books, like such a treasure they had there in Vrindavan. He taught from those books. And then eventually he asked those 3 boys to take those books to West Bengal. So of course Narottam immediately asked his beloved Guru, and Lokanath Swami sanctioned that. And it was very poignant when they left those 3 on their way to Bengal, not knowing if they would see their beloved Gurus again. So Lokanath Goswami, in the meantime, his life, he continued on. He associated as much as possible. He was the first Goswami that went there. The others had come, Rupa and Sanatan and Gopal Bhatta, Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, and Jiva Goswami, finally, the nephew of Sanatan and Rupa. And he had always spent time with them every day to associate. And of course, at this time, Rupa and Sanatan had left, but Jiva Goswami was still there. And so they were very close. But Lokanath Goswami would move around still to different places. So at one time he was on the bank of Kishori Kund, near a village called Umarao. And just when he was there, he was really wishing he could serve the form of the Lord. And it was a really strong desire. Now you have a great exalted devotee with a strong desire. So what does Krishna do? He appears in front of him. Lord Krishna came to him and he gave him a very beautiful deity. And then he disappeared. So, he said to him, worship this deity here. This deity's name is Radha Vinod. And after that he disappeared. So then Lokanath Goswami became very anxious. He's disappeared. What am I to do? He became sort of anxious. And then the deity spoke to him, this beautiful little deity. Said to Lokanath Maharaj, why have you brought me here? I have come personally just to satisfy your purpose. What do you want from me? I live in the forest here, near Umaru. My residence is by this Kishori Kund. You must now give me something to eat quickly. So suddenly he had some service to do for this beautiful deity. And he immediately cooked some rice and put it on a banana leaf and offered it to the Lord. And then he lay the deity down and got some flowers for a bed and looked after the deity as nicely as he could. So he was very joyful. It's described that he was floating on the waves of prema. He was so happy to have this beautiful deity. The Brijbasis, they wanted to build a kutir for the Lord and for Lokanath Goswami, so that he could worship the deity there, but he refused. So then he got some cloth and he made a bag, and he put that bag around his neck. He put the deity in the bag and kept it around his neck. And he worshipped that deity all the rest of his life with great devotion. Wherever he went, the deity would be there around his neck. So very nice kind of mood that he had. So he did actually, Lord Chaitanya had promised that he would come and visit him in Vrindavan, and he was just waiting for that day. But then he heard that Lord Chaitanya had gone to South India. This is before Narottam came. He went himself to South India to try to find Lord Chaitanya. In the meantime, Lord Chaitanya had gone to Vrindavan. So then Lokanath went back up to Vrindavan, but Lord Chaitanya had already left. So he was very bereft, and he thought, right, I'm going to go to Jagannath Puri. And he didn't get very far before Lord Chaitanya appeared to him in a dream and said, I'm always with you. You don't need to come. You stay there. So he remained there in Vrindavan. And he actually lived, of course today is his disappearance day. He lived till a ripe old age. And on this day, he entered the eternal, unmanifest pastimes of the Lord in a place called Yugal Kund in Vrindavan. So when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hardly find anything. There's just a mention maybe in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's because when Krishnadas Kaviraj wanted to take everyone's blessings for writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, he went round all of these exalted souls and requested their blessings. So when he came to Lokanath Goswami, just as Gopal Bhatta did, Lokanath Goswami requested, I'm asking you, please do not mention me in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that was out of his humility. Gopal Bhatta also said, so in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it might say about Gopal Bhatta, a Brahmin from South India. So he was so humble, Lokanath Goswami. Very humble. On Braj Mandala Parikram, which I did 2 years running in the 90s, there's a cave where he and Bhugarva used to live. So they took us, not the people who were claustrophobic, they couldn't come in, but they took us down. It's under the ground. You can go into this little cave. You seen it? Yeah. It's pretty cramped and small, and you think, how could they live here? They lived there and did their bhajan for some time. They moved here and there, but very amazing. So, I guess that was all. That when we sing in Guru Puja, Lokanath Lokira Jivana, then that means that Lokanath is kind to the jivas. That's the meaning of it. And we sing Srila Prabhupada Lokira Jivana, because Srila Prabhupada also has that wonderful loving compassion towards all the living entities. So, thank you very much. All glories to Lokanath Goswami Ki Jai.